I take notes continually. Because I'm working with code and I'm developing my own app, I'm using GitHub, which is a version controlled open source system that's on the web, and also various other softwares have their inbuilt version control systems as well, so they are sort of self-documenting. I also follow good practice by annotating my code, but also the actual different versions I have of the practice of the artwork that I'm making and the writing, the creative writing, is organised in a way that I can retrieve that and trace the development of the ideas.
I would say, put a lot of time into the creative work, but keep the contextual work bubbling under, because I think sometimes it's just seen as one-way traffic. The novel informs the contextual work, but actually the reading that you're doing at the time can make a huge difference and can take the novel into different directions, and it's important to sort of chart that progress as it goes along.
Having a more methodical approach to research. I think I was a bit, I had a scattergun approach before, but now I'm much more systematic. And probably delving further as well. I'm becoming more practiced at exploring an avenue further, going deeper into something, and then pulling the threads out that connect with other ideas. Digital writing is quite an interdisciplinary form anyway, so there's a lot. I have to do a lot of reading, a lot of breadth of reading.
I think on the whole, it's different with a historical novel, but on the whole, I think the research has to come from inside you. It is your own experience of the world, of the way you feel about it and what happens. You can't just look in books and then feel you have done the work that is required.
The techniques involved in my actual writing, that is part of my research, so I am thinking about that all the time and assessing whether something works or not in both my creative practice and in other books that I'm reading or editing or whatnot. But I think my actual research methodologies I'm just doing. Maybe I'm just not far enough along in my PhD to actually be reflecting on those.
The supervisions are really the record, and they are quite recorded for the AHRC. So, I will be able to look back and say, at this point I had 2,000 words, 5,000 words, 10,000 words. But otherwise the novel is the kind of the journal, I suppose. I do it exactly the same way as I did for my undergraduate and MA. I'm a horribly organised person. I read what I'm supposed to be reading and I mark it up in pencil, which I rub out. I then make copious, I then write quotes out in full, and I always write to do it by hand. Once I've done that from one book, I will then distill that down into maybe one or two quotes, but mainly the point of this and where this ties into my research and what point it might make in my eventual thesis, and I type that out onto one page, and then that one pager will be put in a separate file, which is sort of, well, in theory, is my contextualising thesis structure.
It's also the ability to hold lots of different ideas and to synthesise an argument from perhaps opposing ideas as well, and to look at all sides of an argument and then decide which are the ones that are most useful to put forward the point of view that you're trying to put forward, and certainly to examine your own work analytically and objectively as well.
There are many, many eureka moments where I thought, that's the nub of it, that's the point of the novel, or that's the point of the thesis, and that's how I need to shape it around that as my main idea, and everything else will now fit around that. That's happened several times, and also the structure has changed as I keep having these moments of, oh my goodness, that's what I want to say.